All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA practice question series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. A child learns to imitate basic actions like clapping and waving after their dad demonstrated how to do these actions. Later, the child begins to imitate new actions, such as tapping their foot, that they observe in others, even though these new actions were never explicitly taught. What concept is illustrated by the child? So let's think about the child. This is the person we're focused on. We know the child learned to imitate basic actions, things like clapping, waving, and they're imitating their dad. What do we call the stimulus that is being imitated? We call that the model. So the dad is acting as a model here. Later on, the child begins to imitate new actions like tapping their foot that they observe, even though those actions were never explicitly taught. Essentially, the child learned to imitate their dad, and now they're imitating new, novel behaviors that were never taught. What do we call that? A, modeling. Now remember, we're focused on the child who's imitating, not the dad who's the model. B, stimulus control. The child isn't demonstrating stimulus control. The child's behavior is likely under stimulus control now of these different models, but the child isn't demonstrating stimulus control. You've got to be very precise about how you attribute different answer choices to either the behavior or the person. C, generalized imitation. Yes, generalized imitation is exactly like it sounds. It's very similar to something like response generalization, where we have these new novel behaviors occurring in new novel situations without teaching. Now that the child can imitate a known model like their dad, the child is going out and imitating unknown actions like tapping their foot. What is observational learning? Observational learning is similar to imitation, except for the behavior does not happen immediately. In other words, if you watch somebody perform an action, and then the next day you go and perform that action, it's not imitation because imitation is immediate. That is observational learning. In this case, the child is demonstrating generalized imitation. Novak wants to teach his son how to mand properly. Novak places a few items he notes his son likes in front of him and asks his son to label each item. Novak provides reinforcement each time the label is correct. How should Novak use this to teach manding? We take all our verbal operants and they're all required to complement each other. So if the first operant, let's say, is an echoic or even a mand, if the child is pointing before they're speaking, we're going to use echoics and mands to teach other things. Now, in this case, Novak wants to teach manding. What is he doing? Well, he's placing items in front of his son. He knows his son likes. Now, why is he doing that? Because manding is going to be evoked by a motivating operation or typically a want for something. And he's asking his son to tact each item. So essentially, he wants to transfer the behavior from a tact to a mand. How should Novak do this? A, fade out, asking the son to label the items and only reinforce for independent labeling. That is a good way to teach tacting, because if he's not providing the SD to label, then it is going to be an actual tact, but it's not going to help with manding. B, start asking, what do you want in the presence of the items, and then fade out that SD until the son is just asking for what he wants. In other words, he's taught the son to label items. Now he's going to ask the son, what do you want? Hoping the son labels the item they want. And then he fades it out, and hopefully in the presence of the item, the son asks for what they want. That would be a mand since it's evoked by a motivating operation. B looks good. Read all of our answer choices. C, start reinforcing the son for copying what Novak says out loud. We don't need to necessarily reinforce echoics since we're already on tacting. And then D, introduce new SDs and reinforce the son for answering those SDs with novel responses. This appears to be more of an intraverbal training if we're introducing SDs and answering SDs with novel responses. The best way to do this is to try to transfer control to a motivating operation. Logan just got a job as a sales representative for a company that sells kitchen appliances. During training, Logan is asked several different questions related to the appliances and pricing in order to prepare Logan for what real customers may ask him on the job. What generalization strategy is represented most here? Think about our different generalization strategies: programming common stimuli, training loosely, general case analyses, indiscriminable contingencies, multiple exemplars. All of these have a time and a place to help us prepare for generalization. I always want you to remember that the general case analysis here is before teaching. We're using a general case analysis to prepare. So always remember that. All these other things are strategies and interventions. The general case analysis is preparation. In this case, Logan got a job as a sales representative. During training, Logan is asked different questions related to appliances and pricing because real customers may ask him on the job. So if we're training stimuli that could and are likely to occur in the generalized setting, what are we doing? We are programming common stimuli. Through our general case analysis, we've identified stimuli that are relevant to the environment and that could impact behavior and are very relevant to the behavior. The difference between A and C, skipping ahead to C, training loosely, we're training non-critical aspects of the environment. Questions that are asked to Logan are critical. He's going to have to answer these different questions. Non-critical aspects may be the table Logan is sitting at or the clothes the person is wearing. The critical aspects, that's what separates common stimuli and training loosely. And then indiscriminable contingencies is when we are disguising consequences and contingencies. Not the case here. Logan knows he's in training. Logan knows he needs to answer these questions. The generalization strategy occurring is programming common stimuli. A student learns that a penny is worth 1 cent and that a nickel is worth 5 cents. Later, without direct teaching, the student understands that 5 pennies have the same value as 1 nickel. This understanding that arises without direct teaching is an example of which concept? Now let's think about this. The question wants to know about an understanding that occurs without direct teaching. So this student knows a penny is worth 1 cent and a nickel is worth 5. Without additional teaching, the student figures out that 5 pennies have the same value as 1 nickel. What will we call that? What concept? A, stimulus generalization. Well, the student isn't necessarily generalizing stimuli here, right? It's different responses where he's got 5 pennies and he's matching it to a nickel versus a nickel being 5 cents. He's not generalizing any specific response to different stimuli. What about response differentiation? Well, he's not choosing between responses in the presence of a stimulus. Okay, this is a concept formation question. The concept of money being worth the same value, even though they have different values, is an example of what? C, generative learning. What's the difference between generative learning and emergent relations? Generative learning involves actual learning and teaching. Generative learning occurs when you use what you've learned prior to more quickly learn and understand new concepts. Emergent relations is what we have here. Emergent relations is much more similar to stimulus equivalence, where we, without teaching, or the student without teaching, can understand that a certain amount of pennies is equal to a nickel. These relationships are emerging based on knowledge of the other stimuli. Jordan was bit by a dog when he was 5 years old and has been scared of animals ever since. Even though Jordan is now an adult, he still won't own a dog and is hesitant to go around dogs at other people's houses. Jordan's behavior is blank in nature. All right, we're looking at Jordan's behavior. What do we know about Jordan's behavior? We know he was bit by a dog and is now scared of animals. What has caused Jordan to behave in this way? Well, the consequence, right? The consequence was being bit by the dog. So if Jordan's behavior is based on consequences in his own life, how would we describe that? A, ontogenic. We would describe it as ontogenic. This is the history of a single organism, in this case, Jordan. Phylogenetic is the history of a species or a long line of history. So Jordan's family, as it goes back and back and back, would be more phylogenetic. We're looking at Jordan's own history, which is ontogenic. Respondent, of course, is not consequence-based, and since Jordan's behavior is now shaped by this consequence, it can't be respondent. Jordan's behavior is ontogenic in nature. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout-out. Like and subscribe if you're not already. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.